Out front tonight, Russian versus Russian. Putin refusing to help what has been his most prized fighters, the private army, the Wagner Group. That's at least according to the chief of Wagner tonight, who is complaining that the Kremlin will not take his calls anymore.
To get me to stop asking for ammunition, all the hotlines to offices, to departments, etc. have been cut off from me. But the real humdinger is that they've also blocked agencies from making decisions.
It's pretty incredible, and it could be significant because the Wagner Group, of course, is responsible for the small successes Putin has notched in the east of Ukraine in this war. The U.S. estimates that at the start of the year, there were about 50,000 Wagner Group's troops fighting. But recently, Yevgeny Prigozhin, who you heard there, and his fighters have been pleading, pounding the table for more ammunition almost daily. In fact, here they are over just the past few days.
I'm knocking on all doors, sounding the alarm with ammunition and reinforcements, as well as covering our flanks.
We are the artillery unit of Wagner PMC. Every day we carry out difficult combat tasks, covering assault groups. At the moment, we are completely cut off from the ammunition supply.
Completely cut off. This is all in just the past few days. And then tonight, that big admission that nobody seems to care. No one is listening. Because it does seem clear that if Putin wanted Wagner to remain a priority, things would be different. It wouldn't be cut off from all the phones. And Putin's regular military, of course, has been complaining that too much has gone to Wagner fighters up until now. Here's a Russian soldier.
Now all the ammunition is going to Artemovsk, to Wagner PMC units, who can fire a week's worth of ammunition in a day, which we can't afford.
So now you hear it, Russian versus Russian in a battle for ammunition. And it is a remarkable turn of events, especially given that right now it is Wagner's flag flying in eastern Bakhmut, not Russia's. But the ammunition shortage that we keep hearing so much about may explain why Putin tried something suddenly a bit different today, launching what's being described as one of his biggest air assaults in months. This image captures the moment that 3 missiles were fired from Russia. It's almost like a firework there going up in the sky. And in fact, according to Ukraine, 84 missiles were launched overnight. Now, Ukraine intercepted only 34. At least 11 people have been killed. And of course, that means it hit a lot of infrastructure. Power was knocked out in several areas. And tonight, Ukraine is bracing for yet another aerial attack. And all of this coming as the economic costs continue to mount for Putin and his inner circle. Tonight, we're learning that the United States and its allies have now blocked or seized more than $58 billion from Russian oligarchs. Now, that is a huge number, $58 billion, and it's important to emphasize that. But it is not a lot relative to how much they have. To really squeeze the Putin insiders, there's so much more money out there. According to Forbes, they've got 83 Russians on their list of world's billionaires, and that's just the money you know about, right? Not even talking about Putin. And their collective worth, again, not counting all those uncounted billions of Putin, according to Forbes, was an astonishing $320 billion, which sure puts about 50 into perspective. Alex Marquardt is out front in Ukraine tonight. And Alex, with that missile assault across the country that you heard and saw yourself, what is the latest on the ground there?
Well, Aaron, here where we are in the Lviv region, this is where we saw the highest death toll from that wave of missile strikes. 5 people killed in the Lviv region. And Aaron, we are hearing tonight from President Zelensky speaking out about the power outages that have resulted in the wake of this missile strike, and particularly around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which has been occupied by Russian forces. It is maintained by Ukrainian staffers. It is the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe, and it went on to its emergency backup generators. President Zelensky accusing Russian forces of deliberately creating such critical situations at our nuclear facilities as a result of what Russia themselves calls a massive retaliation strike.
Firefighters frantically looking for survivors as others clear the debris from an overnight missile strike in Ukraine's western Lviv region. This Russian missile was destroyed by air defenses, but falling fragments started a fire that destroyed at least 3 residential buildings and left at least 5 people dead. According to local authorities, the residents were at home, the victims of Russia's latest terrorizing countrywide missile and drone attacks, far from the front lines. This is horrible. I don't know what to say, this man said, calling Russians the devil. All across Ukraine, 84 missiles were fired and 8 drones launched at 10 different regions, from Lviv in the west to Kherson in the south, all the way to Donetsk in the east. In the capital of Kyiv, at least 3 people were injured. These cars burned out from more burning fragments. For the first time, Ukraine was bombarded with many different types of missiles, according to a spokesman for the Air Force. It was a range of cruise missiles launched from the air and sea, including 6 hypersonic missiles, as well as guided missiles, and 2 types of Iranian-made kamikaze drones. All told, at least 11 Ukrainians were killed and more than 20 wounded. On Facebook, President Volodymyr Zelensky called Russia's strikes an attempt to intimidate Ukrainians again, returning to their miserable tactics. The occupiers can only terrorize. That's all they can do, but it won't help them. Ukrainian officials described the wave of attacks as yet another strike on the country's critical infrastructure. Power was affected in several areas, including at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, which had to switch to diesel generators before power was restored. The Air Force said 34 missiles and half of the drones were shot down. But several of the types of Russian missiles fired can't be taken down with Ukraine's current air defenses, which the Biden administration says they're working to bolster.
Certainly, we see that there is a real air defense need, and that's why we're trying to focus on the kinds of air defense capabilities, short and medium range, that the Ukrainians really could use to help knock down some of these missiles. And they were successful in knocking down quite a few of these from last night.
Russia quickly claimed responsibility, calling the strikes massive retaliation for an alleged cross-border attack in Russia last week by a pro-Ukraine group. Russian officials said that 2 Russians were killed. CNN has not independently confirmed the events, which President Vladimir Putin called a terrorist attack.
And Aaron, tonight, Ukraine's energy minister says that they are working feverishly to restore power fully. He says that they are making good progress. He praised the energy workers. Now, the power is restored in Kyiv, but 1/3 of the homes there are without heat. Of course, it is very cold here in Ukraine in March. There are also, this was, according to this same minister, the 15th major strike against Ukraine's energy infrastructure. And he noted the new tactics that we saw from Russia today, a combination of these different kinds of missiles, cruise missiles, hypersonic missiles, combined with drones to carry out these devastating and terrorizing strikes all across the country. Aaron?
All right. Thank you very much.